All right, today I want to share my first time doing magic mushrooms or psilocybin, and I did it in a ceremonial way, and it was a big surprise. Just to give you an overview, I thought I was going to go for a cacao ceremony. I ended up doing a mushroom ceremony instead, and then I'm going to give you some of my insights from my personal experience, as well as from a slightly psychological lens and analysis as well too. So I hope you enjoy my story. I'm going to be opening up some really personal aspects of it, and hopefully it'll help you on your journey, wherever your journey is taking you. So to leave off from my previous video where I had my first experience with the psychedelic, it was ayahuasca. To see that video, please look at the link up here. From that place where I did the ayahuasca ceremony, the lady who owned that studio, she invited me to join her and a group of women to do a cacao ceremony on the solstice, which I thought was, okay, this is pretty cool. Never done cacao. And then when I did a little research, it's supposed to be a non-psychedelic, heart-opening, heart-centered medicine. It's, medicinal grade cocoa or cacao, and it's quite bitter and rather hard to drink, and it will warm you up quite a bit, hence the heart opening piece. It does have an impact on your cardiovascular system, and I thought that's what I was signing up for. So I drive up to the studio. As I get there, there's a lady setting up, and she looked at me all of a sudden with very piercing eyes, very piercing stare. She's like, you're not here for a cacao ceremony. We're actually doing a mushroom ceremony, don't you? And I sure did not. I thought I was gonna go drink hot chocolate with a bunch of women and we bond in sisterhood and talk about our periods and all that kind of stuff. That's what I thought I signed up for, not this. So I was like, well, I've heard about mushrooms for a long time, and I guess it's time to do it. Here I am. I drove all the way here. I came here. I signed up for a ceremony. Let's go for it. And I definitely did beyond a hero's dose. I took quite a large amount for my first time, but that's how I roll. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. So please do not follow anyone else's footsteps. You need to become true to yourself and know what's right for you. So I drank some. I ate some. I had some in chocolate format. Then I probably had another dose as well too. Honestly, I don't know how much I had. I had a lot. Let's just put it that way. I was also given these eye drops called sananga, which is supposed to, I guess, clear blocked energies and open your third eye and give you clear sight and clear vision. It stung so bad. Again, didn't know what I was signing up for. I was just open to the experience. That's all. I put my anthropologist hat on to be a participant observer. I put my neutral, non-judgmental hat on to just be open to however this night goes, because it's an experience and it's happening. So here I am. We sit in the circle. We all take the mushrooms and everyone introduces themselves. As we're just kind of waiting for the effects to kick in, I noticed some very interesting characters there. There were a couple of women that self-identified as good white witches. I was like, okay, people like this exist in real life. Okay, we're not hallucinating yet. So, all right. And then there was a lady that worked in, I guess, the entertainment industry. She walked in, she's like, yeah, I'm here tonight at the ceremonies. I think I'm demon possessed and I just want to get an exorcism. And I'm just like, is this stuff for real? What? I thought I was gonna have hot chocolate. What is this? This is like turning into something else. Okay. And of course, everyone was wearing white. That seems to be like a theme in the ceremonial spiritual community, except for one lady was wearing all black. And I'm going to make a note of that because when the hallucinations kicked in, it's important that she looked a little bit different. So when the one lady that was demon possessed said that, there was one of the ladies who self-identified as a white witch decided not to partake in any medicine and stayed completely sober for the whole night. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. There were a few more of us there. And aside from the white witches and the demon-possessed lady and the lady in all black, the rest of us were pretty much characters out of Disney movies. There was Tinkerbell, who was the hostess, literally fluttering around as soon as the mushrooms hit, and she literally looked like she could have fairy wings. She literally looked like a fairy. Then the hostess totally started walking on all fours and turned into Nola from Lion King. Then there was Sleeping Beauty. As soon as she took some of the mushrooms, she's passed out throughout the entire night. And then there was me, Pocahontas. I probably was quite interesting to everyone there too, because I totally took on full characteristics of a Native American person, just doing some ceremonial stuff, which I'll explain and when we get there. Anyways, it was also recommended that we sit in silence to allow the medicine to take its course and activate inside of us, and not to really interrupt anyone else's experience. So we're sitting in silence for a bit. I noticed when it activated, Tinkerbell started fluttering around. Nola started walking around on all fours and making some growling sounds. I started seeing everything with this translucent, very light blue, kind of white, light blue, fluorescent outline. Everyone was outlined that way. And I thought that was interesting. Then at some point I was just kind of walking around, just looking at what's happening. At some point I looked at myself in the mirror, and that was kind of weird to do, but I didn't have a blue lining around me when I looked at myself in the mirror. It was just me. I didn't look distorted in any way, which was interesting. I don't know if that's the case for a lot of other people. I still wouldn't really recommend looking in the mirror when you're high like that. But then again, I actually know I've had some clients and people in my personal life look and kind of find a way to feel good about themselves, about the way they look, about their hips, about their style and whatnot. So maybe that was something that I needed to come face to face with, is just seeing myself clearly, right? All of a sudden, my attention was brought to whatever the witches ceremony was going to be. Everyone kind of had this like outline to them, and I knew I was hallucinating at that point, and I knew that I was seeing things differently. I was always aware of that, and I was just allowing it to happen. I was just surrendering to the process, because here I am. You know, let me give it the full experience, or let me open up to everything that's happening here. The lady who stated that she's demon possessed, she was sitting next to me, and next to her was Sleeping Beauty. And I was sitting to the left of these two women. We were kind of, in a way, I think what I remember is we were asked to like bring our attention and our focus to what the white witches were doing. The lady in all black laid down right in the center, and then there was one woman above her head and then the other woman below her feet, and the two women were facing each other, and I really don't know what they were doing. I was just watching, I guess, the energetics of what was happening, or the hallucination that my mind was creating out of it, or whatever spiritual message I needed to get out of it. This woman who's wearing all black, I don't know what these two women above her and below her were doing. They were making some hand gestures. I really couldn't make out if they were saying anything or not. And then all of a sudden, everything else became clear except for the woman that was laying down, who was in all black. All of a sudden, she started vibrating and reverberating so fast, like the wings of a hummingbird. There was just this incredibly fast movement, and then all of a sudden she went flat, her clothes went flat, she disappeared, everything went flat, and then she would come back, and then she would go flat, and then she would come back. And I'm just like, whoa, what is this? And that happened a few times, and then she got up and she went and rested by a little fireplace area. Then the lady with the demon possessed statement went and laid down in the middle. They also said, oh, well, it's gonna be your turn next if you want. I was thinking to myself, I don't know, I don't want this. I'm just watching. I don't know what this stuff is, right? The lady who stated that she felt demon possessed, she laid down on her back. She was a very, very slender woman. As she was laying there, all of a sudden, whatever these two women were doing, the one above her head, the one below her feet, all of a sudden, again, everything looked very clear and lucid except for the woman laying down. Her stomach looked like it started bulging, like becoming really big, like she looked like she was 9 months pregnant, and then it would come back down. And then it would start bulging, and then it would come back down. And then I saw this very contained, like smoke-like shadow that was kind of lingering up and kind of like stuck to her stomach area. And it was contained. It wasn't scattered all over the place. It was in a very specific contained area, and it kind of had like a wiggle texture to it. And when I saw that, like the big insight that I got from that was just tapping into concepts that I have studied and learned and that I subscribe to. For example, the law of one. I believe that we're all one, and everyone that we interact with is an aspect of the self, to help you see your own blind spots and help you get a more clear picture of your mental projections, your subconscious, your weaknesses, your strengths, your lights, your shadows. It just, every interaction in this world is just showing you parts of you to help you become whole again, right? And in this case, seeing that, and I do believe that everything comes from one creator, whatever you want to believe that is, whatever word you want to use to describe that. I do believe there is one creator, that, and we are all the creations of this creator. And with that black entity, kind of smoky looking thing that I saw, in my mind I was like, oh well, this is still a creation from the one creator. But then I also got this feeling of like, oh, this could be an entity, or is this the demon that this lady is talking about, or is this like a negative energy? And just the intuitive hit that I got was, wow, this, whatever this energy is, whatever this dark smoky thing is, this entity is, it is so far removed from our source of creation. It took on this poor energy, took on the role to be so far removed from love, from peace, from connection, from source, that its only way to connect is through another person or another entity. In this case, it was this woman who did not want this thing to be a part of her. If we're going to entertain the fact that she was demon possessed, let's just entertain that, okay? I had a lot of love and compassion for that entity that was latching onto her in order to, you know, through like a third party, connect to a loving source, because that entity was so far from that connection from our creator, from our source. I had a lot of love and compassion for that, and I was like, wow, what a painful role to take on. Like, if we're all taking on roles in this world, what a painful role to take on. That's where the compassion came from, right? Because that's a really, really dark place to be. Also, the other thing that stood out was like, no matter how much love and compassion I was showing this thing, I could also see that this woman did not want to have this thing be attached to her, and it was unwanted and unwarranted. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, my readings of learning some of the Native American mysticism teachings through the books of Carlos Castaneda, some of those teachings all of a sudden came up, and that's where I started becoming Pocahontas and adding to the cast of Disney that was there that night. I remember in the book that it said that, you know, there are places that you can stand where you feel energy and that you feel empowered in your energy. Maybe you can consider them something like ley lines, or just learning how to connect with the earth in your own energy if you want to be a total earth child. I kind of am myself, just saying. And so all of a sudden I started like walking around trying to find a place where I felt right, and it felt right. There was this one spot I stood, and I got far away, and then I felt like there was a part where it was like, you need to support this woman, or we all need to support this woman to kind of have this entity energy, whatever this dark thing is, to leave, because it's unwelcomed and it's unwanted and it's not leaving. So we kind of have to come together as a group of women, as a tribe, as a collective, to be like, go, this needs to go. where I stood, I felt empowered. I felt like I had a power position stance. If you guys know yoga, I was more in like a mountain pose, a very strong stance. And I started like stomping my feet, and I started making very interesting sounds, which are very stereotypical sounds that you would hear from Native American like ceremonies, or when they're around the fire, like really like random sounds, you know, high pitched, just kind of random sounds. When I did that, you know, all of a sudden it felt like this entity like left. I felt safe to sit down again, and all of a sudden this woman's big belly became flat again, and then they turned her around to lay on her stomach. Still don't know why. I never got these answers. I was always left to try to integrate these on my own and understand them on my own. Again, it's been solid 6 years from this ceremony, from the time I had this ceremony, so there's still parts I'm trying to integrate and understand from it. It sounded like she was being reborn again, and all of a sudden she looked like she was a little baby, and then it made me have cooing motions, and then she turned around and she was a little child, and then there was like little childlike sounds that were happening, and these sounds were actually coming out of me. And then she all of a sudden looked and felt like she was really happy and refreshed, and she just felt really good to come out of that. Okay, and so while we were waiting to see if someone else wanted to go up to get a clearing or cleansing, or I don't know what these women were doing, or energy experience what these white witch women were doing, I was sitting there on the floor again, and all of a sudden I felt a little bit of a sharp pull on my right hip, and it felt like it was my muscle that was off. White bluish outline just started showing up again, and then when I was starting to look up at the ceiling, it felt like there was a hole in the ceiling, and then I got this feeling like, you know, this white light's coming up from, this white bluish light is coming from the sky, and then coming down as energy, and then I'm kind of like moving this energy to my hip to make it feel better, and it just felt like there was this connection with this stream of feel-good energy that was coming down, and I just embraced it. I didn't question it. I didn't know what it was. I was just really fully immersed in the experience. I don't think it made anything go away at the time, but I think it was just allowing myself to get lost in the hallucination, the experience, and the imagination, which was an interesting thing to do. I've never experienced things like this before. One of the ladies who was self-identified as a witch, she comes up to me and she smiles, and her face completely shapeshifts. So now she's in that translucent whitish bluish light, and her face morphs into something else. And when I looked at her, like her eyes, like she didn't look like a human or a woman anymore. She looked something very different. And if I was sober, I would be really scared. Like it was kind of creepy looking and very intimidating looking. But because I was under the influence of heavy amounts of mushroom, I was just in a happy place. And so I just embraced her and smiled and whatnot. And all of a sudden I got up and I started just walking around and skipping around and stomping my feet, and then making like sounds like hi, you know, like these kind of weird sounds, you know. And I was just walking in a circle doing this, and my insight at that time was like, oh my goodness, those movements and those sounds that Native Americans make, that's not coming from them, that's coming from the land. They are moving with the land. They are allowing the sounds of the land to come out through them. And it was a beautiful insight. And as soon as I started doing that, no words were said. It was just those sounds and just walking around in a circle and stomping in a certain way. All of a sudden, all of the women got together and started playing live instruments and put music on. And then there was like this dance happening. And then there was it felt very ceremonial, and it felt very indigenous in a way. Like and all it made me feel was really, really connected to the land. Really, really connected to the land. Like a way to root and be really a part of the land in which I was walking, and also nature that grows from this land, and just kind of being another part of that nature that grows from the land, which was really beautiful. The night was starting to come down to an end. We were all getting tired, and I think the the medicine was starting to wear off, so we were just getting ready to lay down and integrate everything that we experienced. We slept, we woke up the next day, we had a very short process circle. I just didn't share anything. I was just listening, and most of the women there didn't really share much either. Everyone was just really happy for whatever experience they had, and they were grateful, and that was it. And afterwards, I had to recall all of these points that I had to be like, what did I just experience? What was that? And why did my experience look like that? It felt very, very unique. It's just stuff you don't hear about often. So, I had to learn how to integrate this. And as you may have seen in my ayahuasca video, and you will see in all of my psychedelic videos, I am a big proponent of integration. It's such a crucial part of using plant medicines and hallucinogens, especially because they're becoming so prevalent now. This is considered the age of awakening, and one of the perspectives out there is the reason why they're becoming so prevalent is because we're ready for a mass consciousness evolution and upgrade and awakening, and that's why it exists. It's so prevalent now. Just speaking a little bit to the psychological aspects of it, as you see, I had some pretty heavy duty hallucinations, and I was going in and out of being very lucid and being heavily out of touch with reality, or in an altered reality. So heavily in an altered reality, heavily lucid back in this reality. If you don't think you have a strong mind, or you're not strong-minded enough, or you may have any traces of paranoia, or if people have told you may benefit from having a better perspective of things, I advise you to be very cautious with using psilocybin or magic mushrooms, because it is a hallucinogen, and it can distort your thinking, and you can see things that are completely altered forms of reality, absolutely altered forms of reality. If you do want to start dabbling with psilocybin or magic mushrooms, microdosing seems to be one of the safest approaches because it doesn't create any hallucinogenic effect. It has a very strong antidepressant effect. Usually everybody who's done microdosing with magic mushrooms just helps them feel a little bit uplifted, a little bit happier. I believe in the psychology space, it is used as an antidepressant as well as for PTSD. Psilocybin is taking the same footsteps and trajectory as marijuana has. Marijuana started medicinally for more physical ailments like cancer and pain and whatnot. And then it became, you can get medical marijuana if you have some type of pain or pain management or insomnia. And then it became very available for recreational use through the dispensaries. And now psilocybin magic mushrooms is doing the same thing, but it's used rather than for physical health, it's used for mental health, for, like I said, depression or PTSD in a microdose form. And then now it's available at a lot of dispensaries as well to use recreational. It is heavily used as a recreational drug now alongside marijuana, as a party drug, or just like, hey, let's hang out and do mushrooms kind of drug. I have tried it about 3-4 times recreationally as well. Definitely nowhere near that heavy copious amount that I did the first time. Just to enjoy music more, or to go on a friend's trip. I'm in Southern California. Joshua Tree is known for that. For those of you who know, you know. Like at a music festival, things like that. To be honest with you, I really like the effects of it, and I've always had a good trip. I haven't had a bad trip. It's always taken me to a happy place. It made me enjoy music a lot more. It made me actually enjoy music a lot more every time. But when I did it like in a friends group, some people did have a bad trip, and I personally didn't enjoy that because to me it didn't feel fun or recreational. I think I only really enjoyed it with music, to be honest with you. But a big caveat for me, I'm actually allergic to them. I get a pretty severe reaction, which I get like flaking eczema around my eyes. So I'm not even going to try it as a microdose, so I wouldn't be able to give you any feedback about that. But I can tell you, everyone that I've seen that's used it in microdose format has had a really positive response to it. I think it's one of the safer hallucinogens that's out there. I'm a little biased. I will always lean more towards plant medicines rather than pharmaceutical medicines. Although I will never ever completely omit pharmaceutical medicines. They are wonderful when it's the right medicine for the right thing for the right amount of time. Same with plant medicines. But I would say this is probably the safest one, probably some of the best results and outcomes. And just make sure, you know, your body can tolerate it well. A lot of people drink alcohol with magic mushrooms. I wouldn't do that. It could cause a lot of stomach problems because it is technically a poisonous mushroom and you're adding alcohol, which is a liquid poison, so it can cause a lot of like liver GI problems. If you want to learn more on how to use it recreationally yourself and also use it as part of an awakening process, a go-to person's content to check would be someone like Terrence McKenna, and he kind of coined the term set and setting, which is really important, who you're doing it with and where it is. Hey, you could have a Disney cast yourself depending on who you're doing it with, and it's often recommended to do it in a nature setting because you'll connect so beautifully with nature, which I don't have a personal reference to that because I did it indoors except for one time, but I was at a music festival when I did it outdoors, and I was more involved in the music than nature itself. So I don't have any personal reference to share there. Analysis wise, that's about all I have to share. You know, just take care of set and setting. Make sure you're mentally sound. If you really want to try it and you're curious, start with microdosing to see how your body reacts to it. Just honor yourself. Don't overdo it with multiple different substances all at once. Your body is precious. It's the only one you have. Don't overburden it. Allow whatever experience you're looking for to give you the insights that you're looking for. As always, please take the time to integrate it. And it's very self-honoring to learn why those messages came up for you, to develop your consciousness or move past the place that you're stuck in life. Anyways, next video, we're going to talk about San Pedro Huachuma, which is one of the grandfather medicines. And I hope this video served you well. I would love to hear your experience if you'd like to share in the comment section. And may peace be with you. See you in the next video.